knocking at the door on what I knew for sure. Blew up in my face. Woke up on the floor. Couldn't take no more. My darkest day. But I can't lose sleep on what I cannot change. I chased the lightning, I got soaked in the rain. Danced with my demons till I couldn't see straight. Try to twist me, but I still won't break. I don't mind. How far away?
Hey, welcome in. Happy New Year, everybody, to the bridge with our good friends, Kelly Vance and Phil Wallace.
Hi, friends.
And
Hi,
today,
friends.
We're blessed, right? We
Yes.
are super blessed to have with us. And what a great way to start off the new year, right? The author of Stuck, and that is Sheri Yates. Sheri, welcome in.
Thank you so much.
We are thankful to have you. Kelly spoke so
excited.
highly about you, and it's kind of curious how you guys crossed paths and how God put you in each other's lives, and kind of walk us through that.
That's kind of a fun thing because we talked last time about divine connections. So
We did.
yes, this is a divine connection. So actually, one of my friends that I met down in Uganda, that's from America. She's down there actually trying to adopt some children. She can't work there on the visa that she's on, so she's been doing audiobooks to try to support her family.
Okay.
And so she was hired by Sheri to do the audio for Stuck.
Nice.
So then when Asmia was doing the audio, she said, Kelly, I really think you're going to like this book. And so when it was done, she sent me over the link and she said, see what you think. And at first, I'll be honest, I was just wanting to be supportive of me. I had no idea.
Right.
And as I'm listening, I just kept getting more and more drawn in. And I'm like, this is amazing. And I listened to it twice. I reached out to her. I said, Mia, do you think she would reach out to me? Like, is she one of those authors that'll respond? Or is she going to like not respond? Because, you know, she doesn't need one more person asking her for something. So I reached out to her. And as the timing unfolded, she got back to me. We've had a couple great conversations. And here she is. And I'm so happy for us because this is a game changer book.
Right.
Thanks for saying that. I'm excited to be here, and I appreciate you for reaching out, Kelly. I love people. I put my phone number on my podcast because I want people. I mean, why can't they have access to me? That doesn't make any sense. So I'm thankful to be here. It is. I don't know why my eyes are so puffy this morning, but I guess I don't put makeup on until later in the day. So.
We didn't even notice. But definitely, I got a chance to listen to the book twice. Fantastic. Wow. Similar to you, right? I was like, all right, well, we got an author on the show. Let's just be nice. Let's listen to it. Wow.
Yeah.
Sheri, fantastic
thank you.
book. Fantastic book. I was taking notes on it. I'm excited to go through it. Kind of walk me through where you were in life when God put this book on your heart.
That's a great question. I was a young mom. And my dad had a second family later in life. Just a little bit about myself. My dad was an alcoholic and he left our family when I was young. And he had a second family later and gave me two sisters that are 21 years younger than me. So I have little kids and I have my sisters that are younger than me. And I see them, you know, struggling in their dreams and helping them walk this through. And as I teach them how to find out what their dreams are and what their passions are and then how to pursue them, I realize I'm not pursuing my own dreams and passions. They were stuck. They were stuck deep within somewhere along the way. I didn't really give up, but just some of them I buried so deep I didn't even know they were there. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's where I was in life when I wrote it, or when it came about in my heart. It took me a long time to write it after that. I've been writing it in conversations over the years. I think that's how you write a book. You write it with people, you're living it in your life, and then eventually you just write it down on paper, right? And originally I wrote it down on paper for my sisters, for my kids, just for future generations. I just thought, if no one else reads it but my family, it's enough.
True.
And that hasn't been the case. So
no. And
I was asking, how's the feedback been? Well, one of the things I'll preface with this, and you talked about you can't be a people pleaser, right? Sometimes people won't write their book because they're so afraid of the feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. And you're going to get the good and bad about anything, but we've talked about the good that you receive when it comes to feedback from people of, oh my God, this changed my life. I got saved after I read your book. How has that impacted you?
I mean, it's been a blessing. It hasn't really moved me up or down.
Okay.
I learned a long time ago that you can't take credit for the good if you don't want to take credit for the bad.
Right.
But the feedback has been really good. When I speak, I sell out. Just being on Amazon online, just some people may find it or they may not. So you just never know who's going to happen into your book. But I know people are moved by it, and I still get feedback to this day. Someone will send me a picture like, hey, I finally achieved my dream. And I'm just thankful to the Lord that I can help one more person, not bury their talents.
Right.
One thing I would like to add is that when I was writing this book, something profound happened. I would read through it and I'm just like, oh, I'm just not happy with it. I went to this coffee shop and ran into a friend of mine who is an author and a book coach. And he asked me where I was in the process. I tell him, and he says, hey, did you know that of all the books that are fully written, people have written them down, they're finished, only 10% ever get to the publishing part. And I believe that's because the author is its worst critic. So he said, you let go of the book right now. You're done. Turn it over to an editor and never look back. And that was the best advice I could have ever gotten.
Yeah, so much freedom there.
It makes me enjoy reading my own book because somebody else put their little polishing touches on it and it's beautiful. I can listen to it, I can read it, and I don't feel ashamed or like, oh, sometimes I hear some words that I wish I could change, but it's not like that. It feeds me.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. It's huge.
Gotta ask, I love the creativity with the cover. Is this an alluding to the Christmas Story?
It's not. Honestly, okay. I was going to name this book Sticky Dreams.
Okay.
And a friend of mine talked me out of it because there's another connotation with that.
Right.
And so I was just trying to figure out, it's really about, I believe that when you're in the Lord, He plants dreams in your heart. And in our own reasoning, sometimes we don't allow them to grow and to prosper. And so I just thought this is a perfect picture of stuck. And I'm a fun person. So I thought this is perfect. No one wants to be like that.
Not at all. Love it.
I like both titles. I'm just going to tell you. I like both.
Thank you, Kelly.
And if it wasn't for the evil in the world, the first one could have stuck.
Right. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I like it. I'm looking at a couple more.
So in the book, you encourage people to, well, let me rewind. For everybody who hasn't read the book, you talk about uncovering dusty dreams, right? Help me understand what dusty dreams are.
Well, it's literally like, even they can start when you're little. Well, let me back up. Somewhere in the course of our life, we work towards needs. Like we pray about our needs, we seek to meet our needs, and we get stuck there. We never really start to go into the desires, those deep desires. And so really dusty dreams are those little tiny nudges that, maybe it's like, I think I want to be an author, but I'm afraid of putting myself out there because I might fail. I'm not that great of a writer. I'm not that smart. I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to publish. And just have all these, like, you may not even know you have those excuses. They're subconscious, but deep down, it's like this little nudge, like, I really want to write my story down. And this book is really, to me, it's like an identity book. It's learning who you are to give you the courage to pull those dreams out and live them regardless of what people say, think, or do.
Piggybacking off of that, you have a quote where I think it's Pastor Craig actually. He said that my pastor says, "The fear will show you what you trust God in the least." And I think sometimes when people are so critical of like what you're saying, like, "Am I good enough? Did I write this? Am I smart enough to write a book?" Whatever that dream is. So many people have that underlying theme of, maybe God messed up with me,
right?
Maybe I'm imperfect, and so we will overthink, and that might be that fear arising, but how do you encourage people to get past that?
Well, you just said something profound. People think maybe I'm imperfect.
Right.
You are.
Right.
Just face it, you are. And so am I. And everyone here is, right? We're imperfect people, or we wouldn't need a savior. It's just like there's no difference between someone like Craig. Craig is a personal friend of mine, and Mia mispronounced his name. She said Craig Groeschel or something. His name's Groeschel. I just left it. We went back and forth on her recording, and I was like, just leave it the way that it is. It sounds better. Craig would probably not like that. But literally, I love what you said about Craig's message. It's our fears where we trust God the least. And I'll talk about this later, but the season of life I'm in, it's easy to fear right now. And fear is paralyzing, right? It just will absolutely shut you down. And there's no way to overcome fear other than literally moment by moment, taking your thoughts captive and surrendering them. Like, you've got to get in the Word of God. There is no other way to overcome it. You're not going to ignore it, push it under a rug, eat donuts, have coffee. There's no cover up for fear. It is absolutely paralyzing. And when you're in it, you cannot move.
I wish I could eat donuts and get a close relationship with God. That's just staying obedient.
Just as I eat this, well, you can, right? Honestly, you can do anything. Grow your relationship with God.
But you actually said something. So it was your line, then was Craig's line, and you said that harboring will have you believing in things other than God, right? So you might be believing more into your doubts, your insecurities, your shortcomings, and you're so focused on that you forget, like in the case with Moses, he stuttered, but if God puts the dream in your heart, He'll give you the words to your mouth, right? He'll put the words on the pen and paper for you. Right. You just have to be able to walk that path and be obedient.
So you could write a second book. You could write Stuck 2 right there, Phil. That's really good. Honestly,
let's do it.
And sometimes too, I think I heard somebody once say, "Hey, sometimes you just got to go afraid." Like fear can paralyze us, but sometimes we don't have to wait. There are some things we can do that we're afraid to do, but we just got to be willing to go scared.
So
because it's obedience,
right?
Yeah,
you've just got to obey.
I mean,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Something you said with Moses, just in that whole fear thing, when you're really just looking to your own self and you're thinking about your shortcomings, that's pride.
Right.
Ultimately, it's putting your own thoughts above God's. So, people think it's humble to demean themselves. It's not.
It's really not.
It's like a false humility.
That's another part that you had in the book where you said you're valuing your discernment over God's commands, right? And it's so, do I feel like I'll be judged? Do I feel like I'm good enough? Do I feel like it? Which that's just imagine having that conversation, you told me to save these people. God, I didn't really feel like it.
I didn't feel like it.
Feelings lie. If you trust your feelings, you'll end up in a ditch.
Right. Feelings are schizophrenic.
They are.
I love the fact that you're putting it out there for people to just kind of see it. Like, man, does my discernment, am I smarter than God? Am I wiser than God? Well, no. If you don't know that, read Job. You'll find out.
I'm in Job right now.
You'll find out.
My least favorite book.
Oh my! Every time I get
Ecclesiastes.
Okay, Ecclesiastes is your least favorite.
Least favorite. Mm-hmm.
Even over Leviticus.
So.
Maybe Leviticus.
So fear is an acronym, right?
False evidence.
No,
Yes.
not at all. Face everything and rise,
There we
right?
go.
And we've been taught,
Good.
I think, right? So with dreaming, number one, society, American society,
Right.
is all I can speak about. I've never been outside of America, so I can only speak about American society. Is you're a dreamer. Quit dreaming, go to work.
Right.
Quit dreaming, go to work. Create a dream board. Put something out there and be happy that you cut out a picture of a magazine. And for those who don't know what a magazine is, give me a call. Periodically, right? But life happens.
Right.
Okay. So I become a dad. Now my priorities change. Right.
Right.
And I say that dream isn't as important as my child now. Right. That dream
That's true.
isn't as important as making sure my family's got a roof over their head.
Right.
That dream isn't as important as, right. And is that a part of being stuck, is to say, you know what, there's more important things than this dream.
Well, it's also just a season of life. But yes, I agree. I think the key is 15 minutes a day, work towards your dreams.
Right.
Because otherwise you'll live stuck the rest of your life.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, you're exactly right. Everything takes priority over your dream. And I think that's how adult dreams die. If you notice in there, I talk about when we meet with people, you literally ask them what their dreams are. And they're like, I don't have any, you know, I'm living the dream, which is great.
Right.
But do we ever stop dreaming? I think if you stop dreaming, you start dying.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and I find it hard. I'm a dreamer beyond all dreamers, and I'm surrounded at this station a lot by dreamers today. I've got 3 of them sitting right around me,
Hi,
and
I'm
four
Phil.
on the screen. But man, I have never bought into anybody. You know, there's been times in my life. I'm 50. I'll be 55 this year. There's times in my life where yes, Man, Dave Chappelle says it great on his new Netflix series, right?
I haven't seen it yet. I'm so excited.
That I'm not gonna. I won't.
Do it.
It's amazing what he says about dreaming, right? So
Okay.
you have to
Say it.
I don't want to be a spoiler, but he's like, you have to be humble enough to know if you're in your dream or somebody else's,
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Good.
right?
Bars.
And there are times where you're like, oh, I'm in their dream,
Right.
and you have to be humble enough to go, I'm supposed to be in their dream,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's God's plan, right?
Right.
So
Well,
when I
and-
bought into a narrative that says you need to go work for somebody for 30 years and you need to then retire, right? I bought into somebody, and I was helping achieve somebody else's
Right.
dream. I wasn't humble enough to understand I needed to be in that person's dream at that
Right.
point, right?
Mm,
And so
that's good.
I put mine on the shelf, right? I said something else takes priority, but I wasn't humble enough to go, ooh, I'm supposed to be in this person's dream.
Wow, that's good.
Right. And that's God saying, hey, you're supposed to be here. Right. That's to me. Listen, if you're not a Chappelle fan, just watch the last 5 minutes of it. But honestly, God, I was in stitches. But anyway, I mean, he always drops nuggets of knowledge all the time because he's a brilliant man. And that's what he said is he goes, you know, there I was. And I realized that I was in that guy's dream because that guy went to work the next day and be like, hey, man, I was popping up and Chappelle was there looking at me.
Right.
So I think when you're stuck, and I love what you say is, and you write things down and whatnot, but sometimes you may just have to write down and be like, oh, I'm in Phil's dream right now.
Mm. That's
And be
good.
humble about that.
Right.
Well, just because you're in someone else's dream doesn't mean yours isn't coming, because there is a season of preparation. I think a lot of times you just take off running, and maybe that's not you. I did this awesome test. It's called the Working Genius by Patrick Lencioni, and it's the widget. Oh my Lanta, that changes so much. Everybody needs to take that test because you're one of the letters of widget. And when you learn your specific letters that you're a genius in, you have 2 that you're a genius in, 2 competency and 2 that are frustrations. you start to understand like, oh, that's why when I do this, it's so frustrating. But guess what? Someone else has those frustrations as their genius. And so the team is really important.
Right.
And I think that's why we're not supposed to go solo. Go in twos, quarter three strands cannot be easily broken. It's just literally knowing the gifts to have around you. And then maybe eventually sometime you end up being the person who's spearheading the dream that you have with the same gifts around you to help that launch better. Because, I thought, I don't think I have a huge team around me. But then when I looked at it and I heard back from all the people I've been working with for years, I have a giant team. They're just across the globe. Right. I just didn't really realize it. It's like I've been building a team. It just didn't look like a traditional team. It just looked different than every other ministry. And that's another thing of just dreaming is like, you've got to be okay with doing it the way that God paves for you, because he will straighten your path. And it may not look like what you think it's going to look like, and no dream is really like when you think you've arrived. I think everyone's always like, arrival doesn't feel like you think that it looks like from far away. It's like you're still working your booty off. You're just like, is this really arriving? What is arriving? It's like every day having joy in what you do and enjoying the process with the Lord. It's about relationship at the end of the day. It's not about, oh, I wrote a book and it's not as awesome as you think it's going to be. When you write a book and you post it and the first day you sell 10 copies, you're just like, oh, I thought that was going to be a bestseller. I don't know what I thought, so.
It's humbling. I think, go ahead. So there's the people, there's the purpose, and there's the path, right? And I think as long as like the purpose and the path are similar, it's okay for me to be on Kent Station. It's okay for me to coach under my uncle, because the purpose is still the same. It's the path that I feel that God's put a passion on my heart for. It doesn't have to be mine, right? Because the goal's getting accomplished. We're changing youth. We're touching the world. Good things are happening. Mm-hmm. I also want to, I pick you guys' brain on this one. Because I want to listen to the stuff. One of the things that came to me was we talked about, I bought into working for someone else for 30 years, right? And is that a form of, I trust man's ability to provide for me more than God's? Because when I really look at people who are like, I stepped out on faith, and when it does work out, if you compare those numbers to like a salary, it's not close. And then does that look like the paycheck of obedience? Right? Because you walked in faith, I stood up in faith, and we did this. Now these numbers that you never touch at a 9 to 5. And not that money is everything, but you're seeing that I provided for you, what your goal was, it's happening. And so I get in fear sometimes that we're so quick to have more faith in man's ability to provide for us than God's. So,
well, man is really never your provider.
True.
Ultimately.
There you go.
But if I'm putting on hold, I feel like I'm supposed to coach kids in Sunbeams Uganda. Great. But like Quinn said, I have a kid now, I got to provide for. Who's to say that things wouldn't take off had I taken that trip? Right. So that's what I'm saying. We'll put it on hold, but is it really that? No. I needed you to, because she talks about, right on the other side of that breakthrough, Joyce Meyer, Auntie Joyce, which I love that you quote Joyce Meyer so much in this book.
Yeah,
I love her.
Love Auntie Joyce. That right when you feel like giving up, that's when your breakthrough is. So
yes.
Is it that had you walked that one more step in obedience, that would have been the breakthrough for the purpose?
I think overall, it just depends on every situation, right? I mean, ultimately, if we believe God is sovereign and in control, we really can't blow it.
Right.
But we do have free will, and we do need to live by obedience.
Absolutely.
I think, trust.
When I say, sorry.
No, that's okay.
I say God is in charge.
Right.
He's only in control of you according to your submission. So if you don't submit, he's not in control of you. He's in control of his grander plan and his great picture. But he's in charge. He's ultimately in charge of everything. But, people will sometimes say God is in control, even when you're disobedient. And I'm like, he'll work everything out for good, but you got yourself into this trap by not following the Lord. So, I just literally follow the peace. Like when I don't hear God's like audible voice, or I don't hear something I know for sure is him, I do Colossians 3:15. Let the peace of Christ rule in your heart. And be thankful. So it's like, is there peace in this? I'll just sit on it. You're like, where is the peace of God? Not like a peace of man. And you will know, like, when it's uncomfortable. A friend of mine right now has a building. She has it on the market to sell because she doesn't know for sure. Then she got a huge offer on it, over asking. And she just said, I don't have any peace with this. Like, it seems right. It seems the right way to go, but I just feel like God has a different purpose for it. And I'm like, then don't sell it. Always follow the peace.
Yeah.
So at the time, Phil, if you had the peace with your decision,
Right.
then know that God, he can accelerate something in the future that what you may have done would have just been, the same tick, tick, tick. But God's math isn't our math. His timetable isn't our timetable. And you just have to trust God. Like, I did what I knew best in that time. And I'm going to just continue to,
Right.
walk it out and trust that that's what he laid out for me, and not look back, forget the former things, and see today I have a new thing. That's where it's at.
I love asking questions to superheroes.
I don't know. We're all superheroes because we have the super Holy Spirit. Right.
No, I just know that y'all's perspective is going to be insightful, right? And just to throw the question out there and just hear the different perspectives on it, I just appreciate all three of you.
So for what you said, Phil, right? And I roll back to Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Simple as that. Lean not on your own understanding.
Right.
Once you realize that we don't know, right?
Right.
Acknowledge him in all that you do, and he will direct thy path, right? So when you're saying, hey, maybe I shouldn't go, are you acknowledging him, or are you acknowledging you?
Right.
Right. So if you acknowledge God, if you acknowledge Christ at that point, then your answer to what Sheri's saying, then your answer is there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So did I miss that opportunity? Maybe, because I leaned on my understanding. Right. And my understanding is very, 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 very minute and limited.
Oh, it's very short.
Right. Or did I rest on the peace, what Sheri's saying, right? Is there peace in that? Am I acknowledging the Lord and saying, all right, Lord, listen, I'll be 55, right? Double nickels this year. Here we go. And I am making the least amount of money that I have in 30 years. 30 years, right? And every other Friday or something, a check appears, right? God provides all the time, all the time, to where everything is met and right. Now, am I swimming in a vat of coins like Scrooge McDuck? No. Right. But does God provide? Every day.
On the bucket list, though, just once.
Once. Right. Right. So to that is that was I bought in, and I was part of somebody else's dream, helping somebody else achieve their dream.
Right.
I was leaning on my understanding,
right,
or man's understanding, right, or education's understanding, whatever the case may be, to where now I go, I gotta stop doing that. All right, let go and let God, quote unquote, right? But it just, I don't know, and I've got to be able to say I'm gonna stop leaning on what I think, and just resting on what God does.
Love it.
Amen.
Right?
Love
Amen.
it.
I do think there's a couple really powerful points in here that I think would help other people get unstuck. And one of the things you talk about is the past is trash. We can't live in the past, and so many do let the mistakes of their path keep them frozen from ever feeling like they're qualified to live out their dreams, or they don't deserve it, or they're already tarnished. I mean, like you had said earlier, none of us are perfect. We've all fallen short of the glory of God. So to be surrounded by people, and this book does a great job of that. It almost surrounds you with the freedom to begin anew, to move forward, to not be stuck in yesterday, but use yesterday to help you be better today. Right. And I just think so often, and I do think that's where we've talked over the course of our time together, is there's a lot of people that have comments, or the sideliners, we want to call them, that would, be our dream killers. Right.
That's what
but is that how you become a dream killer? Is because you're so stuck in what you did wrong, or what they did wrong, or what someone else did wrong, that now all of a sudden you've not only put yourself in a stuckage place, but you're sticking everyone around you.
The crab in the bucket.
The crab in the bucket.
Well, you end up piling up a record of wrongs against yourself, against others. You end up with bitterness, and you can't move in love when you have all that baggage.
And the world needs to see people redeemed. Like, I just don't think there's a bigger, more powerful, brighter demonstration of Christ than seeing someone who has overcome bad decisions and put their life in Christ, and now they have a whole new life. Like, if people could see more whole new life, who wouldn't be like, I need Jesus?
So pick up your mat and follow me. So you do, and everybody goes, man, he's lucky. You're like, wait, what about that first 30 years where I couldn't walk?
Yeah, right.
Forget that part.
That's a good point.
I love that.
Or what about how hard it is to drop this mat?
Right,
I
exactly.
got to learn to live in a whole new way. I can't live as a beggar anymore.
So as you were doing this, and God placed it on your heart to write this, and there are a lot of gems in this book. How many times did you scratch your head and go, oh?
I mean, it wasn't like I sat down and I literally wrote this book in a week, just so you know. It was crazy. I was telling Kelly, it was just like the lowest hanging fruit. I had spoken. I made a very wise choice that every time I spoke, I recorded it. I had everything transcribed. I have an assistant who did everything for me. And I pulled it together, sat down with an editor, or, she's amazing, Trisha Heddleston. And I sat down with her literally in a coffee shop 12 hours a day for 7 days. And we put this thing together, and it was pretty much done at the end of the week. I sat on it for a while because I was like, oh, am I good enough? Is this good enough? I mean, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, is this, like, what are people going to think? And I was like, you know what, I can read it. This is awesome. This is encouraging me. I need to get this out. And when I ran into Randy, my friend that's a book coach, and he just said, give it away and let someone do what they're called to do. Like I said, with the widget, let them do their gifts on your book, and get it to the finish line. Don't let this die on the shelf. And my husband had told me, because I've written my whole life, he just said, everything that you have written on the shelf, I have a huge shelf of writing. And he just said, this is a buried talent. And how dare you bury the talent God has given you? That's disobedience. And I was like, oh, then I started using my gifts. And then it was a long time later before I came out with this. So did I scratch my head? This was actually an overflow. This was not difficult at all. It was literally like turn on the faucet and fill a pitcher. That is what it felt like to write it. So I think that's a huge blessing when you can do that. I mean, and there are seasons of overflow and seasons of like, I can't turn the water on and get a drip, right? Why is that? I don't understand, but they're just seasons of overflow. Like this year it's crazy. I'm in a really hard trial right now. But this year I've been overflowing Bible reading plans on YouVersion like nobody's business. I mean, I'm just spitting them out. I'm like, how is this happening? I don't know. But there are seasons that things are easy and seasons that are hard. So if I scratch my head, it's because how was that so easy?
Right.
So what happened with there's a little bit of a gap between the time you've written this book and published it and then had Mia do the audio recording. So can you talk a little bit about that gap? There's a huge gap.
There's a huge gap. I was planning to voice record it myself. It's crazy. I can speak and flow, ebb and flow. But when I sit down to read, it's just, I get stuck and kind of stumble. And I just finally decided, you know what? I would rather have this on audio because I want to listen to it than I would have my own voice on it. And that's when I finally decided I need to just give this to someone else, because honestly, even still to this day, this book is still sought after by people and people still read it. And I'm on Audible all the time. I don't know about you. I don't have time to sit down and read the black and white words. I want to, but I don't have the time to. And so that's why I just decided finally, get off the pot, Sheri, and get it done. And I just executed. I loved Mia's voice. I took a lot of auditions and I just loved her playful, fun spirit. So I feel like that was a God connection right there. And she was like, you picked me to record your audiobook? I'm like, yes, I just loved you. So that's why.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's all. That's why there's a gap.
Well, I can tell you your timing was totally perfect because she's in a really hard season right now. And when she was recording this book, I think it really was like life being breathed into her one day at a time.
She said that.
Yeah, it's just
that's
amazing.
One of those things where you're like, okay, so think about this. I talk about the men who had their coins. They're 10, they're 5, and they're 2. It's literally like, these were my coins. And just deciding to finally make it an Audible became an investment into Mia and into Kelly.
Right.
It's just like, it's literally like, even if you don't know what your dream is, invest in someone else's, because that's not burying your coins. Burying your coins is doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Even supporting someone else's dream is putting equity into your bucket. It's still giving you a return on your investment. It's not burying them. There's no wasted season.
Yeah. The brilliance too with the book, as this is the bridge, is who touches your bridge, or what I mean, or where does your bridge go to, and who can walk on it, right? Is the book talks a lot about that, not only going after your dreams, writing your dreams, but how you support other people in their dreams, right? And I've got my goals for 2024. I share these with everybody. Now, the funny thing is, like, I wrote these down in November about 2024,
right.
And it says, spend positive energy helping my kids achieve their dreams. That's a goal of mine this year, right?
Love that.
And shortly after I wrote that down, and of course, we talk about stuff, but shortly after I wrote that down in our family chat, right? I'm sitting on the bench at a men's game. I don't coach men's basketball, but I did this day. I helped out this day, and my 21-year-old daughter takes a picture of me coaching and says, "The man doing what he loves and chasing his dream." And when your kid says that, you're like, "Oh,
they know it."
Whoa,
that's sweet,
right? And I'll get choked up on it. But to me, right, that's that bridge. Now, I'm old, right? And now my daughter, who's young, goes, "I'm never going to give up, right? I'm not going to get dusty dreams, because my crazy old dad is chasing it every day, and he's not, and that's why it's hard especially with the people that I'm around, where I go, I don't get how you can't chase your dream. I don't get how you can't continue to dream. It's a weird concept. I understand people do, but I don't understand at the same time.
Well, it's interesting, even with our kids, you think they're going to pursue their dream and stay after it. But it's interesting how outside obstacles can thwart that. I say fear, failure, fear of people, loss, and devastation. Those can actually cause you they're like outside forces from Newton's law. It's like an object will stay in motion unless an outside force acts upon it. So criticism from their peers, or a heartbreak or whatever, can cause them to slow down. So how do you restart that? I think that identity is the key. When you know who God is, when you know who you are, when you know what you have, you know what to do, and you obey, you'll do it. Even when it's hard and you're in a devastating situation, you'll still do it. And if we can teach our kids that, it's like, okay, if we don't know what to do, we have to ask what the problem is. Okay, it's like, who is God to you?
Right.
Who are you? Tell me about your identity. Is there a crack in that identity? What do you have? I have everything I need through life and godliness through the Holy Spirit. I have the Holy Spirit, the same power that raised Christ from the dead. It's like, I have hope living in me because it's Christ in me is the hope of glory, right? And so I just have to go back through those things and then reassure every single crack or foundation, and then I know what to do.
Right.
So remember that with your kids when they're walking through it and you see them struggling, go back to that. Like, okay, let's talk about who God is. He's going to protect you no matter what. If you fail, he's going to pick you up. His shelter is safe. Stay in his shelter. You can't be harmed. You can't be hurt. No toenail stub is even going to come against the dreams that God has put in your heart. Excuse me. One thing I wanted to share that I've been really processing since I've been talking to Kelly that's kind of new is I'm put in the situation where I'm running our business, which interesting enough is bridge. Jesus is the bridge. It's literally, I was like, Kelly, you have to be kidding me. It's Bridge Enterprise Solutions, bridgerm.com. We are consultants. I've been a consultant since I graduated from college, and we love people. And our heart's desire is that when people go home from work at the end of the day, no matter whose dream they're living, that they have a peaceful dinner table, that they sleep through the night. The things that keep them awake are put to rest. Right. It's like, no, we don't have capacity for that because we need the peace of Christ to guard our hearts and minds. But I've been put in the position where I'm totally in charge. And I was walking out the door one day and just all this anxiety started to come over me. I was like, oh my word, like, what if this doesn't work? And I mean, just a million thoughts. Like, what if I can't do this? What if this? What if that? And da 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 da. And literally the sweetest whisper crossed my mind, which I know was the Lord. I supply all of your needs according to my riches, according to me, my glory, who I am, not according to how smart you are, how hard you work, the clients you have, what's on your plate. It's not you, it's I supply. Mm-hmm. Now, Sheri, why don't you tell me about the desires on your heart?
Right.
Stop talking to me about your needs. And that is literally stuck. We're so stuck in the needs, meeting the needs. Are we going to be sufficient? Are we going to be able to provide dinner for our family? Are we going to be able to do blah, 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 blah? But he clothes the lilies of the field. Like, how much more does he love us? How much more are we loved? Think about how, if you're a parent, how much you love your kids, how much more you're loved by the Father. And that's a safe place to explore your dreams, your desires, because you're so loved. Even if 1 million people come against you, you're still loved. They cannot take away from you that which they did not give you in the first place. That's why we need to get unstuck and start pursuing the dreams of our heart. You don't arrive in a day, you start pursuing. If you have the desire to start your own business, open a checking account in the name you want it to be, even if it changes later. Who cares? Don't get caught up and be in desire-phobia. Put $500 in the bank under the name, The Bridge, $500. That is how we started our business. Literally, it's not even the name. It's Kingdom Business Consulting. I still have the account to this day. We opened an account and put it in there. And my husband finally had the courage to leave. Now, we would have been bazillionaires had we stayed working for the man. But what's amazing, bazillion, for real. But for real, running your own business is hard. It has ups and downs. But when you have a team that gets to work for you, part of the dream is that you get to sow into other people's lives and you get to push identity into them and who God is and what they have and build them up in courage. And eventually you see them fly off. And it is amazing to be in that role and to be able to invest in others like that until they have a safe place. That's one of my primary goals. Here you have a safe place to grow up in Christ where you're going to be loved unconditionally, because all of us are flawed. No one's perfect. And when you get onto someone else, you're probably committing the same sin. I'm like, you got onto me for being judgmental, but you're judging me for being judgmental. I'm just like, whatever. So it's a blessing, but I mean,
makes sense.
So.
No, I was having a conversation about this with one of my friends, and we were talking about a lack of understanding about God will leave you with a diluted perspective on yourself in life. Right. And like you talked about earlier, you're talking about the only way to get that understanding is in the Word, and really getting a really comprehending and hearing it and just getting it repetitive. That if I don't understand, like you're saying, the kid of the king, right? And you talked about the adopted parents, when you get all of the rights of the father. If I don't really thoroughly understand that, then I'm second guessing and I walk around with that orphan spirit in everything I do. I think that it's lack. I don't ever think abundance because but I still just focus on my perspective. And then you said intelligence is futile outside of God's wisdom. That was huge. Because my intelligence is saying that I need to have and just make sure that my pile is good. My lack pile is good. And the Father's like, no. The desires is abundance. The needs are going to be taken care of. We don't have to get gray hairs over that part. I got that as your father. I'm not going to just sit here and let you starve, bro. I got you.
Right.
Let's think bigger than that. And I think so many people, and myself included, right? We all do it in certain aspects, are missing out and having a jaded or diluted perspective on life or our potential because we don't have that thorough understanding of who God really is.
That's exactly right. You'll always live beneath being a child of the King. It's like you were adopted into the castle,
right,
to be a daughter of the King, but you're outside living as a pauper. And as long as you will settle for that, you'll stay there. But the doors are wide open.
Right.
It's a choice. Today you have before you life and death, blessings and curses. Today choose life. So that you and your descendants may live. That's it. It's a choice. You got to know who God is and then choose to live out of it.
That's beautiful.
Walk in that kingdom bloodline. I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Yes. I always say, a friend of mine, Stefan, gave me the example, but I'm like, this is your adoption manual. Ooh. And it will tell you everything that belongs to you. It'll tell you who you are, what you have possession of. There's nothing, if you have a need, there's nothing in the family that isn't available to you.
I love that. You talked about an object of motion, unless that's like criticism, friends' opinions. In your book, you talked about running, and you talked about how I was running away from everything, and I would never be able to walk out God's plan running from certain criticism. I think that, well, this is kind of a twofold question. I think people should understand the difference between just random criticism and coaching from mentors or people who God put in your life. How do you help people navigate from my middle school, high school friends just calling me names or Kent, who I view as like my uncle, saying, hey, Phil, you can do this better. All you got to do is make this adjustment here. How do you help people kind of notice that difference?
That is a great question. I think criticism has fear of punishment or fear of loss associated with it. Okay. But someone who's coaching you up has a more life-giving twist to it. It's like going to put you up a stair, put you up a floor. It's something that's like, this is going to help launch you. Not if you do this wrong, you're out of here, you're fired, right? God's kindness leads man to repentance. But the fear of punishment is what makes us, that's the criticism. It's like, you're an idiot, you're stupid. I mean, that's the difference. I mean, hopefully Kent doesn't do that to you.
I also think too, if we just take a second and get a bigger view and look up a little bit and look out, where is this person's words pulling me? Is it pulling me towards death or is it pulling me towards life? Is it pulling me towards stagnancy or towards growth? And I think that for me is how I can anticipate who I listen to and who I don't. Like I can take criticism or constructive criticism or coaching, however you want to call it. Right. If your ultimate goal is for me to get to life or growth. Right. But if it's constantly swirling me downward, well, then I've got to be like, you know what? How many times have we run around this track? Right. Just can't go there again because you're not growing. I'm not growing. And
done doing laps around Mount Sinai.
We're done doing the stuck thing. So I think for me, that's what's helped as a total recovering people pleaser who would love to jump. I've jumped through a lot of hoops to try to get people to approve. And when you realize you just can't jump through any more hoops because they don't stop coming, that's probably your critic and not your coach.
Well, and are they controlling or are they coaching? Right? Because a lot of people want to change you because they want to control. But an actual leader is going to give up control to have growth.
Right.
So,
I mean, you go back to where's the peace in it? If there ain't peace in it, guess what?
Peace and freedom.
Right. If there's not peace in it, then that person's not there to elevate me or help me or achieve my dreams.
Yeah.
And that's my bad. I mean, I'm gonna live on that for a while, Sheri. So thanks for that.
Thank you for that. Fear-based versus love-based.
Yeah.
Right. Controlling versus freedom.
Yeah, because Christ died to set us free.
I think we all have a control issue. You know, like we want to control. I love Culture of Honor by Danny Silk.
Such a good book.
Oh, God, that was life-changing. Best marriage book, best relationship book, best everything. Because we don't honor one another's gifts. We want everybody to be like us, and we want them to see from our perspective because we think ours is always right. And it's just not. It's just someone else's gift adds to my gift. And that's maturity, is really being able to honor and respect each other and understanding that they're not going to do it the exact way I think, but maybe their way is right because they just see God differently and they can add to my view of God. So I don't know, that's a great read. I read that with my kids. One thing you said earlier, Kent, about your kids. I was just in the recording studio with my daughter, one of my daughters this week, and she's always been writing and been a musician, but we had them do worship this
studio with my daughter.
Since they were little. We opened a house of prayer when they were little, and we did worship and prayer for over our city for years. And, I just think I'm like this annoyance sometimes, and the fly in their ointment, if you will. But in the studio, when she was talking to the guy, she said, my mom has always pushed us to pursue our dreams. And I said, I wasn't really pushy. And she's like, yes, you were. You made me take piano. And that, I didn't want them, I didn't want them to miss what they love, just doing the rote things that are kind of the treadmill. It's like life is a conveyor belt. And everyone expects you to get on it and get off at the right stop. I mean, I homeschooled my kids, and we would go into public and I would have to tell them, be quiet, don't make a scene, because people would be like, why aren't you in school? You're not on the conveyor belt of life. Get back on it. And I'm like, I just don't want to cause a ruckus, but we're not getting on the conveyor belt. We will not live on the conveyor belt. Now we do to some degree, and it's shocking when you see that sometimes. But if you just continue to teach your kids to dream, it's scary though as a parent, because you love them so much. And you're like, well, don't dream so big that you're across the world from me.
Right.
Could you dream closer to home? If there's a house down the street, like, can you have a dream of living on the same compound and property? But it's like, do you really want them to not pursue that which God's put in them since they were born? How do we, teach our kids to do that and still have love? I mean, that's a problem in of itself, because you've got to know your identity and be able to let them go. And that is hard.
What a great thing to be known for as a mom, that you pushed your kids to pursue their dreams. I mean, there's a lot of kids that got a lot of things that they can say about their parents. But to be able to say that you pushed them to pursue their dreams, and that's a loaded statement. Just even saying that you believed in them and you believed in what they could do.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
She didn't say "Mommy Dearest" pushed me to.
Right.
I love it. Is there such thing as dream stealers out there in the world?
I don't think so. I think there's dream envy.
Right.
Dream envy. Yeah. You can try to copycat someone else, but you'll never thrive at it because it wasn't designed for you. So if you there's a book, Still Like an Artist. I'm not against that. Is there anything new under the sun? No, God created it all. If you need to copy someone for a little bit, copy. It's all God's anyway. No one owns anything. Copy it, and hopefully that will launch you into some confidence to do your own thing. So right. I don't think there's dream stealing. There's dream envy. I would love to be a singer, but I'm basically tone deaf.
Oh, I'm a singer. Just ain't very good.
I love to sing. I sing all the time.
Well, that's why I love, so musicians and magicians are the same to me. I can move my hands the same way they do, and it doesn't produce the same stuff.
Right?
Yeah, like, all right, that's awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there's dream stealers. I think you can. I'm going to chase my dream because that's my dream. You can't take that from me, Phil. Now, if you had a similar dream and you're going to improve on whatever my dream is for you, that's your dream. Right.
Go for
but
it.
I'm not going to stop chasing after my dream because take a look at technology, take a look at everything out there as improvements. And somebody's dream is like, man, if we take a TV and make it flat, we could stick it on a wall. Back in the 70s and 80s when we were growing up, we're like, what are you kidding? That's a piece of furniture. That's never going to go on a wall. Right. And now it's like, and now we're watching TV on our #pocket computers. People are watching videos on a 2-inch screen instead of an 80-inch screen on a wall, and those are all enhancements to somebody's dream, but somebody else had a dream and added to it. And I think it's huge to understand too that there's not a time limit on your dream.
No.
Right.
We say if you're not dead, you're not done.
Right. In the fullness of God's time, not mine.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. More millionaires, if you're judging, success by the dollar amount you have in your bank, more of them happen after people are 50 than before they're 50.
Right.
So there's a conception of what is successful or whatnot, but my dream may not come true until I'm 140. I'm going to live to be 140. So my midlife crisis will come when I'm 70.
Nice.
I don't think you're going to live to be 140.
Take good vitamins.
145?
Take good vitamins.
The Bible says 120.
120 is it.
120. So your midlife crisis is coming.
Yeah. No. I'm living to 140.
I like it.
I'm going to go skidding across the finish line too.
That's good.
I just want to see you demonstrate drills at 120.
Hey. This is how we ball handled back in the 1900s.
That's great.
So now just wanting to recap a little bit on this book so that people know what they can expect from it. Sheri talks a lot about dream.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to say what the 3 dreamers are and see people can see where they find themselves?
You want me to say them?
Go ahead. Yeah, you're the author.
I thought you said you were going to say them. You can go for it.
So dream killers, dream keepers, and dream lifters.
Right.
And I think it's important to see where you fall. God wants us all to be dream lifters, but we have a propensity to go towards one or the other, I think, if we're honest with ourselves. And there's some practical exercises in here to help you put into practice what we're talking about and not just like the first one that you gave, which make a list of 100 things to be grateful for.
Right.
I can guarantee that once anybody gets past 5, 6, and 7, their mindset's already changing. And by 100, you're willing to really take on some big risks and uncover your dreams. So there is a lot, even though we touched on a lot, there is so much more. There's quotes after quotes in this book.
And my favorite chapter is Identity Rules and Lies Rule. I sometimes read that just to encourage myself. So,
and you also give a very clear understanding and description of how people can make up their own dream boards and how to walk that process out. So it's incredibly practical as much as
Thank
encouraging.
You, Kelly. Thank you.
And up there on screen, this is the Amazon. You can go to Amazon, get the book. That's the one, Stuck, with the tongue on the pole. Right?
And that looks painful. Like this makes me realize that being stuck is painful.
Mm-hmm.
It is painful because you're dying a little bit inside, honestly. That's what happened to me. I literally realized I had this dream and I put it on a sticker and I wrote it on the wall in front of my kids. They were pretty little and my sisters. And that's when I realized oh, this will die in me if I don't do something about it.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Where did you go?
Exciting.
Where are we at? I don't know. What did I do? I don't know.
What?
Are you good?
I don't know what I did here. We'll figure it out. Stay with us.
Sure, you're still on. He just put the book instead of.
It's great.
There we go.
It's all good. My puffy eyes. Guys, you guys are so much fun. I want to be on this regularly. How can we do that?
Come
I
on.
love
By
this.
all
We're-
means.
We're on every other Friday.
We're on every other Friday. You're always welcome. Your family now, so you're
That's
stuck with
right.
us.
I love y'all. I love your studio too.
Thank you.
You still have elves on the shelf up there.
Are you're in Oklahoma or?
I am. Oklahoma.
I saw when you said we have a professional sports team now. I was like, yeah, that's the Oklahoma Thunder.
Yeah, my daughter's a Thunder girl. Yeah.
Is she?
Mm-hmm. Really cool. She was in LA last year and now she's a Thunder girl. So it's fun.
I don't
You know, I'm the mom, like, I'm like, yay!
Right.
She's like, Mom, please.
That's so exciting. You know, something I'm observing, and I don't mean to cross the line if I'm saying this. I really mean it to encourage you. But with the heart of season as you're in right now, I still feel like you're still achieving dreams. It may look different and you may not get to always actually feel it, but you can just see that still coming out and still happening anyway. And it's just awesome to see. So even though there are different seasons for different things, I don't think it's an all or nothing.
Right.
You know, and I think as moms, we can totally fall into that, especially because we it's easy to put everybody else ahead of
First.
you, but it's
Mhm.
not all or nothing, and you're still killing it. So
That's
thanks so much
Right.
for joining us.
Hey, listen, our
That's fun.
time is short and it's done. But Sheri, now you've been part of the family. Come back anytime.
Thank you,
just
Kent.
email, say, hey, I'm ready to go this morning, and we'll send you a link.
Okay.
Get you on.
And then where can
Sounds
people
good.
reach Sheri? Where can people reach you? They want you said I know that you left your phone number on the book, but it's on Facebook, Instagram. Where can they find you?
Instagram, Sheri Yates. Facebook, I don't know my name on there. Sheri Yates. Equipped to Stand on Facebook. SheriYates.com. 405-938-1304.
Awesome.
So go for it.
Yeah.
Love y'all.
Listen,
Pleasure too,
for all of us
Sheri.
here at 21.6 The Net, thanks for getting caught in the net with us this morning. And remember, if you're stuck, the way to get unstuck is read that book. That is
Yes.
it. Have a
Thanks,
great
guys.
day, everybody. Thank you,
Thanks so
Sheri.
much, Sheri.
Bye.